Hello there, and welcome to Drive Time with KJ. Park and Bark edition. I'm your host, KJ Bell. This is the car where I get in my show. This is the show where I get in my car and I talk about things. So this is the first Park and Bark edition of Drive Time. If you're not familiar, Park and Bark is a term that's used in vocal circles, musical theater, opera, that sort of thing. And it's a song where there's you don't do any action. You get on one spot on the stage, you stay there, and you sing the song. You park and you bark. And I thought, considering the idea of the show being that I drive normally, that these situations I've wanted to do for a while, where I park and talk about something a little more, serious is not the right word, but for want of a better term. So for some of these, there's gonna be a specific topic we're gonna talk about. Sometimes it'll be a fleshed out version of one of the musing little mini essays I put on my website, thatkjbell.com. Sometimes it's just gonna be whatever's on my mind at the time. And today is one of those days. So I just got done with yoga, and I've been doing yoga pretty consistently. I've been going to the same studio and doing the same sort of classes for about 1.5 years now. And I've done it on and off since then. And I'm trying really hard not to be the person that's like, yoga's amazing and it changed my life and you should all do it. But yoga's amazing and it kind of has changed my life in a lot of ways. But I had an interesting time today because there's a pose that I've done several times before, and it's not easy for me. It's called Gomukhasana, if you're in the know. It's shoelace is what your legs are doing, where you're trying to basically get your feet to the opposite hip. So right foot is trying to be on the outside of the left hip. You're seated on the ground, and the idea is that pretend this is my knees. These are my legs. Your knees stack on top of each other is the goal, right? I'm not quite there. Can't quite get to there, but we're on our way. And then when you go to the full thing, there's several variations that you do on the top with the arms, right? It was so much harder for me today. There's a puppy somewhere. Well, there's another puppy over there. That's probably why puppy over there is yelling, because puppy over there. But the pose was so much harder for me today, and sometimes when that happens, I get really frustrated, and I did today. I got pretty frustrated with it today, but it wasn't the worst thing. And this is one of the things that I've found to be the most beneficial about yoga, is it helps me to sit in something that is not super comfortable, which is a problem that I've always had with meditation. But with yoga, it's more physical. With the meditation, it's the things in there that are scary, that are hard to sit with, that I have the problem with, right? But doing yoga helps me to physically get used to sitting in something that is not necessarily comfortable, and that sort of translates. Today, in that pose, I had the realization, I was like, okay, I think there's a perfect storm of factors that are going on here. I think, for one thing, my body's a little bit tighter today than it normally is. I think that was one thing. I was set up slightly differently than I normally do. I normally sit on blocks when I do this pose, and I was sitting on shorter blocks. And the teacher has said many, many times that the blocks are good, the floor makes it much more intense. So I'm thinking the smaller blocks were a factor. And then it was also just a little bit warmer in the studio today, so I was a little bit sweatier, so I was literally slipping off of myself, right? My legs were slipping off of each other, where the skin was contacting skin. Sometimes when this happens, I hit the frustration and I get it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And today I was able to get to that place where I was able to just be like, okay, we're just having a day with it. It's not great, it's not comfortable, but this is how it is today. This is where we are, and we're just going to stay in it. So I don't think we need to aim for that being our default setting all the time of let's just accept that these things are bad. Because I didn't immediately. I tried making some adjustments and trying some things of like, okay, let's see if maybe if I do this slight sort of adjustment, and just nothing was working. And I think that there's a benefit to being able to accept that things in the moment are not going the way that you want them to go. Two small dogs being very brave about a big dog on the other side of the fence. That's funny. How am I saying this? Because I'm thinking about this in terms of what's going on in the world right now, specifically in this country that I live in, of the United States. Because I think we as human beings are so adaptable that it can be a problem sometimes. I think this happened with COVID. I think that we all were so traumatized by what the pandemic did and the way that it changed things. And I think that in many ways we adapted so quickly that we're not talking about it. We didn't ever really deal with the trauma. We just sort of skipped to, okay, this is just what life is now. And I think that that is sort of an undercurrent of what's happening with a lot of stuff in the world right now. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but I think it's one thing. I think it comes to intention, right? I think it's not about pretending that things are fine or not even noticing that things aren't fine. I think it's about being able to see that, yes, this is not going the way that I would like it to. It would be much better if this adjustment could be made. I'm not able to do that at this moment. And how can I find a way to not necessarily be okay with that, but just continue living in it? You know, not to say that we shouldn't try it again, not to say that we should accept this as the permanent status quo, but just being able to weather a storm. That's a good way to put it, to weather a storm. Because you can't change the storm, no matter what certain members of political bodies say. You can't control the weather. Sometimes I think we're living in just the dumbest timeline. Anyway, the more I think about it, the more I think the storm is the perfect metaphor for what I'm talking about. Because when the storm comes, there's people who will be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It's sunny. There's no storm. And they'll try to tell you that there's no storm, and that's one thing. And then there are people like, it's going to be a storm forever. And we're just going to, I don't know what we're going to do. The storm is forever, and we can't, it's storming out. Oh, no. But the reality is, like, the storm will be here. And it might be here for a while. But you can deal with the storm. You can find ways to deal with the storm. And yeah, it won't be as good maybe as if it were sunny. You're going to get a little wet. But there's some benefit, I think, to preparing ourselves and working on ourselves being able to handle discomfort. In all ways, shapes, and forms. Physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, mental discomfort. Yeah. So that's one thing that yoga has really helped me with. In addition to just like being more flexible and stronger in certain ways. Like recently had to climb out this side of the car because I had to parallel park on the driver's side, and I got super close and couldn't get out. So I had to climb out this side of the door. And that was so much easier than it would have been before I had been doing yoga more consistently. It's funny how hobbies and activities like that can help us in the wider world. So that's the first Park and Bark version of Drive Time. I hope you subscribe and you like and you follow me on all the places. I'm that KJ Bell everywhere you can be. And so I hope you have a wonderful time wherever and whenever you happen to be. And as always, dear viewer, here on Drive Time, may your drive be better than mine. There was so much sidewalk and that guy just walked so close to my car.